In Greek legend, the little owls of night were companions of the goddess Athene, hence their Latin name, Athene noctua. The little owl of our story hatched out 4 weeks ago in this hollow oak. She's the eldest of a brood of 4, and we've called her Athene. It's the last day of June, and Athene is taking her first look at the outside world. This is the story of her life over the next 12 months. The tiny owlets keep their parents busy. Each in turn flies in with food. Athene is on the right. While her mother rests between hunting forays, Athene and the other owlets spend many hours just staring out at the meadows and the hedgerows of their farmland habitat. They look and learn about their surroundings and the creatures that live there. A kestrel comes under scrutiny. They swivel their heads because they can't move their eyes. Summer insects are plentiful, and ghost moths are easy prey. With 2 holes in the tree, all 4 owlets can watch and listen while waiting for food. Small insects mean more journeys. Each parent may make 20 visits a day. Athene is ready for her first excursion. One of her parents is always on guard, ready to warn of the approach of potential enemies, such as a buzzard. As the days go by, all 4 owlets venture out to explore the tree's branches, exercising their legs and wings. It's the first week of July. Athene is 5 weeks old. This is the evening when she'll take off on her first sustained flight, up and away from the home tree. Within a week, she'll fly well. A century ago, the first brood of little owls in Britain fledged in the grounds of Lilford Hall in Northamptonshire, their parents having been brought from Holland and released here. Other releases followed in Hampshire, Hertfordshire and Yorkshire. By the 1930s, the little owl had spread throughout England and Wales, reaching southern Scotland in the 1950s. A very successful colonisation. Athene's parents are now among the 10,000 or so pairs resident in Britain. Athene has been polishing the skills needed for survival. This bobbing motion is to practice the judgment of distance. Like young children, the owlets spend much of their time playing. This helps with the development of their physical growth and with social behaviour. When fully grown, a little owl will be the size of a song thrush. Play includes fighting, mutual preening, courtship and sexual behaviour. They're still being fed by their parents. Athene begs food from her father, but begging cries could attract predators. As they become bolder, the owlets are more vulnerable. Stoats, cats, rats and foxes are all enemies. Within 4 months of fledging, on average, at least 2 out of every brood of 4 will be dead. They starve, get caught in fence wire, or they're killed on railways or roads. Life in the tree and beyond is hazardous. Like all owls, Athene bolts her food without much preparation. Later, the indigestible parts, such as bone, fur and bits of insect armour, are regurgitated. From prey remains in pellets, the eating habits of little owls have been revealed. It's not surprising to find that in summer, insects such as these make up a large part of the bird's diet. Grass cutting flushes up hordes of them. Other statistics can be gleaned from dead birds. Sadly, Athene's brother becomes a victim of human haste. Nearby, on a pile of wood, the 3 remaining owlets are molting, changing from juvenile to adult plumage. A stray feather can be a nuisance. Growing new feathers takes 7 weeks and saps a bird's energy. Extra food is essential. Besides providing prey, the parent birds take turns to watch over their young, who've now nearly finished their molt. A month later, Athene is all set to become a magnificent predator. Her pristine feathers will provide the camouflage she'll need for concealment from enemies and from her prey. Her large eyes are so highly specialized, she can hunt in near darkness and in broad daylight. She sees shape better than color. Her vision works in conjunction with her acute hearing. Fringed edges to her wing feathers muffle flight sounds, and the velvety nap of her body plumage stops noisy friction. Prey will not hear Athene's approach. Her pointed, hooked beak has cutting edges for capturing and dismembering. She'll use her powerful toes and claws to kill and hold prey. Feather patterns give the impression of eyes in the back of her head. Feather care is an essential part of bird behavior, and to keep herself fit and sleek, Athene takes frequent dirt baths. Scraping out a hole and wallowing in it is an effective way of keeping clean, and she appears to enjoy it. The dust absorbs stale preen oil, removes loose feather scales and some of her parasites. October, and after a long, hot summer, the lowering skies that herald the autumn rain are a welcome sight for farmers and owls. The weather evokes a rare response from Athene. To make the most of the rain, she perches on a horse fence in the open. Drawing one feather at a time through the bill, smooths and cleans it. To complete her shower, she raises her wing against the rain, wetting her soft underparts. A rain bath becomes a rain ballet. The wet weather brings up the worms. Athene has left her parents and is now on her own. She must keep alert to keep alive. Fending for herself, she finds worm hunting relatively easy. She has the instinct to hunt and kill other creatures, but skill will come only with practice. As the November dusk approaches, the surviving young owls compete among themselves and with the adults for space to hunt. The air is filled with calls. Athene has travelled about 10 kilometres from the oak where she was raised. Near this farm orchard, she's pairing up with a young, unattached male. It's to be a relationship which will last until one of the partners dies. Getting to know each other takes time. There's a mixture of courtship and aggression. Mutual head preening will help strengthen the pair bond. The colonization of Britain by little owls has been achieved mainly by avoiding competition with other owl species. But here, Athene and her partner share the same habitat with the barn owl. Habitats rarely overlap with the conifer-living long-eared owl, or with the vole-eating short-eared owl of open moorland, or indeed with the tawny owl of woods and suburbs. Where the habitats have overlapped, all these owl species have occasionally preyed upon little owls. On the continent, a little owl will commonly fall prey to an eagle owl, not found in Britain. When little owls are focusing on a prey animal, they're susceptible to attack from the rear by silent predators. Perhaps the false eyes of feathers on the back of the little owl's head help to deter enemies like the eagle owl and the goshawk, giving them the illusion that they've already been seen, and thus reducing the likelihood of an attack from the rear. During cold December, Athene often feeds on small birds and has been known to take a blackbird, a species almost as big as herself. There's no easy prey. Worms are underground and there are few insects. Athene will need to live mainly on small mammals for the next month or so. Gradually, she'll get to know the best hunting areas. Snow settles fast on frosty ground, and even a few inches makes finding food more difficult. When food is put out for sheep, rooks appear like magic. Another of Athene's siblings perishes. Many birds will die of starvation or cold before the winter's out. Much energy is used just keeping warm. Athene saves energy by sitting quite still in the thin sunlight. As February gives way to March, male owls voice defence of their territories. With the coming of spring, the stark shapes of winter are softened, and the birds have more cover. As a prelude to mating, Athene and her partner indulge in mutual head preening. During April, the birds mate daily to strengthen and maintain the pair bond and ultimately to fertilize the eggs. Selection of a nest site is the next priority. The male summons his mate for nest showing. The willow is one of several potential residences that he's found for her. Athene flies over to start her tour of inspection. She spends some time in the hollow. Athene leaves. It's obviously not a desirable residence. The matter is settled. Athene has chosen the barn roof space for her nest site. It's here that she'll lay her eggs. Her mate continually plies her with food, providing her with the extra nutrients she needs to make the eggs. But there is a limit to the amount that she can eat, and this time the prey gets away. Nesting in close proximity to man has its dangers. In the past, nesting chambers have been deliberately blocked up and adult owls shot. However, some farmers think that little owls are beneficial to man, as they eat large numbers of insects and rodents. It's now the beginning of May. Athene's white eggs will show up well when it's dark, so there's little fear of her treading on them. The roof space is her domain. She'll do all the incubating, sitting night and day, with only a short break of a few minutes' duration in the evening. Her mate will guard the territory and hunt for both Athene and himself. Her food will be brought to her in the barn. At this stage, he makes about 8 journeys daily, mostly in the early morning and the evening. After a month-long wait, Athene has 2 blind babies in the nest. It was at this time, last June, that Athene herself hatched out. Hatching is spread over several days. The owl chicks are born with a layer of white down. Again, white is for safety. At night, Athene is less likely to tread on them. The baby owlets are timed to hatch out when insects are becoming really plentiful. It's a busy time for Athene's mate. He is now responsible for finding food for the whole family. To save time, he passes it to Athene, who feeds the young. Small prey items like insects are ideal for the tiny chicks. Rodents will be dismembered and only tiny pieces fed to the owlets. The movement brings out her hunting instincts. For the moment, she thinks it's alive. She stores surplus food items within easy reach. The failure of one egg to hatch is probably because it's infertile, or Athene may not have turned it often enough during incubation. After a spell of wet weather, there are fewer insects about. The owlets are 10 days old. Their white birth covering has been replaced by a thicker coat of grey down, which gives them better protection against the cold. They can now control their temperature long enough for Athene to make short hunting trips. With the constant comings and goings, the roof tile has moved. It's quite a squeeze gaining access, so Athene takes the worm. Muddy and wet from hunting worms, he's still stuck. He'll have to come in and turn round. Dust and dirt in the roof space have stimulated the owlets to attempt dirt baths, giving their mother an eyeful in the process. They're just not interested in the worms. The grassland in June harbours small rodents and both day and night-flying moths. At 3 weeks, the chick's camouflage of brown, true feathers is beginning to form through the down. A woodlouse on the roof arouses their interest. They're beginning to develop the sharp focusing powers so important for their hunting. Although it hunts by day, the little owl is really a nocturnal creature. Attracted by road lights, spectacular moths become seasonal prey. The best hunting periods are the hour after dusk and the hour before dawn, when creatures are emerging or returning home. Athene sits on her favourite perch, listening for scuffles or squeaks. Unlike other British owls, she could, if necessary, run to pursue the shrew should she fail to make a strike. The shrew no longer needs dismembering. The owlets are nearly ready to leave their birthplace. At 4 weeks old, the eldest of Athene's brood takes his first look at the outside world. Athene is an attentive parent. She'll watch over her offspring until they disperse. But if by chance they're still around come autumn, she and her mate will evict them from the territory. She's an efficient huntress. Having survived to adulthood, Athene could live another 6 or 8 years. The oldest little owl in the wild, on record, lived for 17 years. A pair is usually faithful to nest site, territory, and each other. This brood is likely to be the first of several that Athene and her mate will fledge from the barn annually. Was the little owl once a native of Britain, wiped out by the Ice Age? Some people seem to think so. But native or not, the little owl is now firmly established as a lovable member of the British avifauna. Long may there be farmland to support Athene's descendants. It's the last day of June. The seasons have come full circle. This, then, is probably only the first chapter of A Little Owl's story. 12 months in the life of Athene Noctua.